Let me show you how you can achieve a terrific vibe akin to the jazzy sounds of MNDSGN or Kiefer, for instance, with the tools that you probably already have at your disposal. Following these steps, I guarantee you'll have a loop from which you can build your entire arrangement from. Let's dive into it. You want to start off with a chord progression that's already in the realm or universe that you're used to hearing that chord progression. For instance, if you're creating an Asian-inspired piece, try to look at reference material that is similar to what you're trying to build, and pick a scale like the traditional Chinese pentatonic scale, for example. I want something jazzy, so I'm going to go with a B-flat minor scale, and I'm going with the chords B-flat major 9, E-flat major 7, G-flat major 9, and a B-flat major 9. It's such a lovely jazzy vibe. But if we add the same F note over the top of this scale, it's going to give a nice repeating pattern that the listener can latch onto. And you can of course play around with the velocities of those F notes so that they stand out on certain chords more than others. Don't worry about sound selection just yet. If it sounds like it grooves with your built-in instruments, it will sound even better later. Let's not waste any time right now. A repeating note on the same couple of keys might sound boring, but choosing a more interesting rhythm will really bring it to life. Don't overwhelm the listener. So let's use the muted guitar preset, which is free for Ableton Live Suite, to just create a repeating pattern. I'm just going to use that same F like our chords, and then right at the very end of the loop, I'm going to go down to the D. Alternatively, you can offset the placement of the chords and have them echo as arpeggiated pluck patterns, like this. We can use a really cheesy preset like this 12-string guitar preset. You can also try inverting those notes of those plucky echoes for alternative voicing. So we could invert those chords. I like where they're playing right now, so I'm gonna leave them as is. Oh, I should mention the whole project and a brand new drum kit instrument that I've created is over at the Patreon. If you don't want to create all of this from scratch, go give it a click. Let's continue. From here, you can copy and paste that chord progression one more time for you to create the bass track. Keep it simple once again. Think about where you might place the kicks over the drum groove and have the bass enter on those kick markers. And keeping it really simple on the kick drum stabs thereafter. And then something melodic at the end. Second time round, we can add some ghost notes. And then another interplay. Lovely. All right, time for some drums. And this is my Hush Child Kilobyte kit. It's got some really cool stuff going on, and you can download it from the Patreon or check out my previous episode where I show you how to make a synthesized drum kit like this. I'm going for this real kind of lo-fi boom bap feel. I'm keeping everything really humanistic, but still in the pocket. What do I mean by that? I want it to be tight playing, but not quantized. I love using this kit because it's like having hundreds of unique drums inside just one patch. It's not CPU heavy at all and has a lovely thwack. They're those kick drum markers that are going to play with the bass. Let's bring in the rest of the tune. Finally, we probably want a top line melody. So I'm going to throw a new technique at you. Like and sub if you think this is going to help out. Have you heard of mumble tracks? It's kind of like when a producer will mumble guide tracks in the style of the artist that they're creating for to better hone in on the vibe that they're crafting. I do the same for top line melodies. It's easier to sing, hum, or whistle your melody than it is to aimlessly smash out on the keys. That's if you suffer from a lack of music theory like I do, of course. So I keep it real simple. I just do something into my phone. Da ba da ba da be da. From here, you can tidy up that melody by adding auto-tune if you're not a very good singer like me. Da ba da be da be ba. And then you can right-click, convert that audio to a new melody line, and grab that MIDI to use as your top line instrument. And speaking of phones, did you know that DistroKid have an app now? They're today's sponsor and they're my choice of distributor for releasing all of my music. Better yet, it's not just iOS. They've launched for Android too. Use the link in the description, download the app of your choice and start releasing your music. The link in the description will get you 7% off your first year. Let's dive back into it. So now I've got this underneath, which I've just put on a nice serum preset, something plucky. You can now, of course, get rid of that horrible top line vocal that we had and see how it sounds with the rest of your track. And we can take that out and bring in back our arpeggios. I think those two elements will kind of call and response. We'll have a section with the arpeggios and we'll have a section with the top line. So I'm already thinking about arrangement styles. Look at that. Within minutes, we have almost a complete loop. We just need to select the right sounds. So I just want to put something underneath that serum preset, something like the Kalimba Plastic with a really high pass filter, just so it pulls it out of the mix a little bit. I've also added a second line of guitar. It's the same preset, but I've just EQ'd it slightly different and played it in a lower octave. It's going to give a more humanistic double-tracked feel, and emphasizing that double-tracked feel is the chorus as well. Remember, use reference material for context. Create like a fictional shopping list of the sounds that you're looking for. So I'm going to go back up to my chords and dial in something more in keeping. Finally, with that old electric preset that we had when we started our chord progression, I've just changed this to this lovely synth hacker preset of the JX3P lead. It's something I've mentioned on the channel before, but I've taken the cutoff down and just added a little bit of attack to this preset, and it gives this more analog feel. But then I've also added another serum preset underneath, which is the same synth hacker pack of sounds, but I've added the Moog flute feel with a kind of telephone EQ on the EQ8. This preset, I've also added 7 unison and detuned a little bit so it sits wider than my more central sound. And if you don't have serum, but you are following along and creating a vibe from scratch with me, go ahead and use something like Wavetable, Meld, Drift inside Ableton. You'll get similar results. This group you can add a little bit of RC20 wobble to, maybe distort it a little bit, just so it sounds a little bit more analog and warm. On the bass, I've been using drum bus as like a little hack to get both a little bit more transient pluck out of the strings for the built-in Ableton guitar that is, and a little bit of fuzz as well. And this is it after. So it's just a little bit more in your face, really adds to the mix. We can add a little bit of a send on these rolls. And that's just on send A with the delay, Valhalla vintage verb, but you can use hybrid reverb and a compressor go into itself so the sound isn't washing over the preset. For the overall vibe and mix, if you're going for like a Kiefer, Tom Misch kind of sound, then keep your track generally quite dry. And then if you want a real kind of mind design sound, you can add something like RC20, or I have the low-fire effects rack over at the Patreon as well, just to add maybe a little bit of pitch wobble, noise if you want to, but a lot of distortion in the mids and a little bit of bit crushed, which is going to give you that more kind of synth wavy Game Boy kind of sound. There we have it, guys. A solid way to dial in a quick, laid-back, chill-hop vibe in moments without getting bogged down by sample selection. I hope this helped, and if it did, let me know in the comments section what you'd like help with in the future. Like I mentioned, you can download the entire project and the new Kilobyte kit instrument over at the Patreon. Thank you so much for stopping by, and I'll see you next time.